Okay, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something that's really been making waves online recently. It's this really charged conversation about how leisure travel and cruises specifically might be changing.
Yeah, it seems to have struck a chord with a lot of people. We're focusing on one particular YouTube video, right?
Exactly. It features a woman who's been cruising for decades, and she describes this pretty dramatic shift she's seen, especially on Carnival. And then the video's narrator jumps in with his own wider take on maybe why these changes are happening.
So our plan is to really unpack her specific points, look at those explanations, some of which are, well, quite controversial, and think about the bigger questions this raises.
Right. Questions about culture, maybe class, how we share public spaces. The idea is to give you, the listener, the key pieces so you can get a better handle on this whole complex topic.
Absolutely. It's fascinating how one person's trip report can, blow up into this much larger debate about society.
Hmm.
We're basically working from this one main source, but it really taps into a lot of current anxieties, I think.
Okay, so let's start with the cruiser herself. You said she's been doing this for a while.
Yeah, the video mentioned she's been on 9 cruises, starting way back in 1993. And she remembers those earlier cruises, up to about 2005, as being not cheap, but very nice. That's her quote.
Nice in what way? What did she remember liking?
She talks about politeness, staff, other passengers, and this sense of decorum was her word, especially around meals. Like, she specifically said you didn't show up to the dining room dressed like you just came from the pool. There were expectations.
Okay, so that definitely paints a picture. And it sets up a real contrast with her latest cruise, I imagine.
A huge contrast, yeah. She lays out several things that really stood out to her this time. For instance, the Serenity Deck. Supposed to be the quiet zone. She liked going there early for coffee, watch the sunrise.
Sounds nice.
Well, this time, she said it was full of people still drunk from the night before. Her words.
Oh, not quite the same vibe then.
Not at all. And then she described seeing literal trash outside cabin doors, like
Word.
plates of food just piled up on the floor next to her neighbor's doors.
Wow, okay, that's pretty specific.
Very specific. And her overall feeling was just no class. That's the phrase she used. She mentioned instances of fighting, cussing, and screaming on vacation.
Right, not exactly relaxing.
And the pool deck. She said it was basically unusable for her, like almost the entire day and night. From 8 in the morning till 1 a.m., she said it was just too much.
So it sounds like this wasn't just a minor annoyance for her. It really affected her whole trip.
Oh, definitely. According to the video, she felt strongly enough to write a letter to Carnival.
Really? What'd she say?
She told them she wouldn't sail with them again. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Because she just didn't enjoy the cruise anymore.
Okay, so that's her experience. And then the narrator of the video steps in.
Exactly. He takes her observations and tries to explain them by pointing to what he calls a new element. His theory is that cruises have gotten more popular, maybe more accessible, and that combined with social media, it creates this kind of Me Too culture.
Meaning people just copy behavior they see online?
Sort of, yeah. Like people do things because they see other people doing them online, maybe without the same understanding of, context or decorum that might have existed before. It's behavior modeling, essentially.
And then the narrator takes it a step further with a pretty provocative claim about who this new element is, right?
He does. He directly states that the woman's experience, as he interprets it, points to the worst of Black culture, having infiltrated and completely ruined these cruise environments.
Okay, that's obviously a very loaded statement.
Extremely. And it's important to add his clarification here. The narrator follows up by saying, look, this isn't about all Black people, and it's not even exclusively about one race. He frames it more as being about, and these are his terms, ghettos and ratchetness and hood rats ruining things. That's the distinction he makes. Still very controversial language, of course.
Right, so he's trying to separate behavior from race, even while initially framing it in racial terms. It's complicated.
Very. And then he pivots to this other argument, connecting the price you pay to the behavior you should expect.
Okay, how does he explain that?
Well, he uses an analogy. He contrasts fast food, where the motto is have it your way, you get exactly what you ask for, with a, say, 5-star restaurant. There, he argues, the chef prepares the meal, and the expectation is you appreciate it as it's presented. You don't customize it the same way.
So more money equals more structure, less individual freedom.
That's his point. He explicitly says the more you spend, the higher the expectation for how you act. He believes people aren't just paying for the thing itself, like the food or the cruise, but for an opportunity to put themselves in rare air. Exclusivity, basically.
And he thinks that higher price tag is designed to keep certain people out, not just about profit.
Exactly. He argues that places like country clubs or certain expensive neighborhoods, they use high prices specifically to keep a certain element out. It's about curation through cost.
Which leads him to another pretty contentious idea.
Yeah, his belief that accessibility breeds contempt. His argument is when things become too accessible, maybe standards drop, and then people might even complain about the company. He even suggests people might blame Carnival for racism if their own, perhaps unreasonable expectations aren't met. And he explicitly mentions disagreeing with diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI initiatives in this context.
Okay, so there's a lot tangled up in his explanation, but it raises the question, who is responsible here? The woman who had the bad experience seemed to blame Carnival, right?
She did, yeah. Her perspective, as presented, was that Carnival dropping the prices was the root cause, and that low price somehow excused the bad behavior she saw.
But the narrator disagrees.
Completely. He pushes back hard on that. He says it's not Carnival's fault they lowered prices. The responsibility, in his view, lies squarely with the ill-mannered, classless people, as he calls them. He thinks individuals need to be accountable for their own conduct, regardless of the price.
It's interesting, though, there was that little detail in the woman's story about meeting some nice people amidst all the chaos.
Oh, right. Yeah, she mentioned meeting a group, maybe 15 people or so, from a Baptist church near Chicago. She said they were fun.
But she couldn't really enjoy their company.
No, she said she couldn't really visit with them properly because of all the surrounding nonsense, as she put it.
So even positive interactions were kind of drowned out by the overall atmosphere she was experiencing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It kind of highlights the problem, doesn't it? Even if there are good elements, the disruptive ones can overwhelm the experience. It shows how hard it is to carve out your own space when the shared environment feels chaotic.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really brings into focus that core tension, doesn't it? The difficulty of maintaining a certain kind of atmosphere, a desired vibe in shared public spaces, especially when they become open to more and more people.
Yeah, it's not just about cruises. You see this discussion pop up everywhere. Parks, airplanes, concerts.
True. It's a recurring theme.
And it leaves you, the listener, with something to think about maybe. As these spaces do become more accessible, how do our expectations change? Or how should they change? And where's the balance? How much responsibility does a company like Carnival have in, curating the experience versus how much falls on us as individuals to behave in a certain way when we share spaces with others? It's a tricky balance.